Hi, my name is Katie Landry Guyton. I am the Senior Service Hydrologist for the National Weather Service office in Houston, Galveston. I'm also a meteorologist, and today I will be giving you a outlook for the winter weather season for 2025-2026. So before we dive into what's to come for this year, I wanted to give you kind of a recap of what we saw during the winter season for 2024-2025. So during the previous season, we had weak La Nina conditions when we're going to talk about what that means for us. But this ultimately resulted in near normal and actually some locations below normal rainfall, as well as above average temperatures, with the exception of January 2025. So here are some examples here. So we had College Station, the mean temperature for the winter weather season. So that's basically December 1st through February 28th. The mean temperature for College Station was 54.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal is 53.3, so we were slightly warmer. We did have 14 days below freezing. And then precipitation, that average total during that time was 8.29 inches. The normal is about 10 inches, so we were drier in College Station. For comparison purposes, IAH, we had mean temperature during the winter season of 56.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal is 55.6. So again, warmer temperatures across the winter period for this past year. We did have 11 days below freezing. For precipitation totals, we actually had 11.98 inches, which is actually on the higher side. Our normal is 10.76 inches. So quite a little bit of a difference there. But if you go down to Galveston, the mean temperature during the winter season was 58.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Our normal is 58, so slightly warmer. 4 days below freezing there. The total precipitation during that time was 8.38 inches. Normal is 10.67, so again, drier. So the IAH was kind of an anomaly. We did see that we were actually seeing warmer and drier conditions from the weak La Nina. But of course, weather does still happen even with these climatological changes. These are the sea surface temperature anomalies back during the January timeframe. And this is where we were seeing the conditions meeting the criteria for a La Nina. So what you're looking at here is actually the equatorial waters in the Pacific Ocean. The blue indicates below normal sea surface temperatures. And when we see below normal sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, that indicates the conditions are met for a La Nina. So this is what we were seeing back in January of 2025. We were seeing this leading up to it, which is why we had a weak La Nina during this time frame. Now, what you're going to hear is even with a La Nina in place, you still can get these extreme weather conditions. So during the winter season, we actually had the January of 2025 winter storm. During this time frame, we actually had winter storm watches and warnings that were issued on January 20th and 21st. We had cold weather advisories that were issued leading up to the event that ended up transitioning to extreme cold watches and warnings. Those are issued from the 21st and 22nd, and we're going to talk about those differences towards the end of this webinar. But ultimately, I wanted to point out the fact that we were seeing some of the new changes with the products that we had put out, and we were able to exercise them in this event. Even though we were calling for a warmer, drier winter for the 2024-2025 season. We ended up getting snowfall across much of our area in Southeast Texas. A lot of the coastal counties were actually seeing the higher amounts. So we had dusting of 6 inches. The highest total that we had was actually 6 inches in LaPorte. But most of the snowfall reports were the highest south of I-10, which is kind of an interesting setup. Typically, we'll see more of the higher totals in our northern counties. So this was quite an interesting event. And of course, it didn't shock us that we saw this in a La Nina, and you'll see why in just a little bit. And these are just pictures from the snowstorm or the winter storm that we had at the office. This was our office and our rain gauge. We actually had the flag markers to help us with taking an accurate measurement. Okay, so let's kind of transition away from the 2024-2025 season and focus on what's to come. So before we can talk about what's to come, let's kind of talk about where we're at right now. So looking at October, mainly just because we don't have the full data set for November just quite yet, I wanted to show you on the right-hand side, you can see these are the departure of normal values for the precipitation. So we actually are seeing below normal precipitation totals across much of the area. A couple of areas are seeing below normal values of anywhere of 3 to 4 inches. Some locations anywhere from 4 to 5 inches below normal for the precipitation totals for the month of October. Looking at temperatures, so in College Station, the mean temperature for October was 75.6. Normal is 71.1. So we are seeing warmer temperatures than normal. And again, the precipitation totals, you can see that we are in a deficit. Normally we're close to 5 inches and we've only seen just over 3 inches in College Station. For IAH in Houston, mean temperature for October 76, normal 71.8, so above normal temperatures in Houston. And again, the below normal rainfall totals. And same story, rinse and repeat, where Galveston, our mean temperature for the month of October, 77.8, normal 75.3. So keeping up with that warming and drier trend. So that kind of is going to be setting the stage for going into our winter season. And the reason why is the Climate Prediction Center has issued a La Nina advisory. So this basically means that conditions are favorable for the development of La Nina for the next 3 to 6 months. And so this is one of those things that, we're seeing very similar patterns set up. As I showed you in the previous image right here, these are the sea surface temperatures for the equatorial area for the Pacific Ocean, seeing those cooler sea surface temperatures indicating La Nina is upon us. So we are expecting La Nina conditions to persist through February of 2026. And it is expected to remain relatively weak, so similar to what we saw last year. So what does that mean for us? So basically, when we see La Nina, those cooler sea surface temperatures in the Pacific, that basically means that our polar jet actually will set up further to the north, which actually brings us those warmer and drier conditions. So basically, we're seeing that jet stream steer systems typically displaced further northward, and we're pretty mild for the winter timeframe, especially for the Houston metro area. So that is indicated here in our seasonal temperature outlooks that the Climate Prediction Center puts out. So on the left-hand side, this is basically giving you what the probabilities are of the temperature outlook. So you can see for the Houston area, we're colored in those oranges here, and that's basically suggesting that we have higher probabilities of above normal temperatures for the area. So about 33 to 50% chances of above normal temperatures. And then looking at the precipitation outlook for the next 3 months, you can see we've got those brownish colors here. That's basically indicating that we have higher probabilities of below normal precipitation. So again, over the next 3 months, warmer, drier conditions thanks to the La Nina being in place. All right, that doesn't bode well for our current conditions regarding drought. So on the left-hand side, this is our drought monitor. You can see that there are a couple of locations within our jurisdiction that actually have extreme drought. Most of the Houston metropolitan area is seeing anywhere from moderate to severe drought. If you look at the seasonal drought outlook, so this is taking into consideration the short-term and long-term statistical and dynamical forecasts. And this is basically kind of giving you an idea of, do we expect drought to persist, improve, or develop. And so if you look in our area, basically there's a portion of the area that we're expecting the drought to persist along the coastline or develop. Further inland, we actually are seeing some signs that we could see improvement, and that is mainly from the next week to 2 weeks, not the longer term trend that we're seeing with the warmer, drier conditions. And I'll show you that in just a second. One thing I did want to point out to you is, so basically when we're talking about ENSO and these teleconnection patterns, which we're basically looking at these global scale climatological patterns and what we could expect, I wanted to show you that right now, we are seeing that we've got La Nina, but we are trending actually down with La Nina and actually trending upward to having higher probabilities of a ENSO neutral time frame for the spring. And then we actually could start to see the neutral conditions actually coming down and the possibility of El Nino coming for the summertime. Now that's still extended, so that is something to keep in mind, but I did want to show that we will be coming out of La Nina and most likely going into ENSO neutral for the springtime frame. So I've basically given you kind of the climatological outlook where we're basically seeing the warmer and drier trends thanks to ENSO, but I wanted to point out that we can, of course, see slight short-term disruptions in the climatological pattern, which of course is weather. So I want to make sure you remember weather is the short term, climatological is the long term. Weather can still happen. And that's where we can get these intermittent surges of cold Arctic air plunging southward. And it's actually not uncommon for us to see these kind of extreme Houston freezes in a La Nina period. If you look on the right-hand side, here are some examples. So we actually had La Nina years in 1983, 1899, 1996, and 2021. And if you look, each one of those years, we actually did have pretty significant winter storms. The big one that comes to mind for most of us is Winter Storm Uri, where we had the basically 90% of Harris County lost power. So I want to make sure that you understand that even though we are calling for a warmer, drier winter, we do still have the risk of these, short intermittent surges of cold Arctic air that can end up causing pretty significant and hazardous winter storms for our local area. All right, so as I had kind of showed, in that seasonal outlook, there is a portion of our area where we could see the drought slightly improve, and that's because over the next 6 to 10 days, we are actually seeing some probabilities of we're actually seeing higher probabilities of above normal precipitation for our area, and we are still seeing, we're still seeing some above normal, or chances of above normal temperatures over the next 6 to 10 days. So warmer and slightly wetter period for the next week and a half. And then that kind of starts to persist into the 2-week time frame. Still warmer, but slightly on the wetter side. But of course, looking at the 3-month trend, we are going to see our likelihood of drying out because of the La Nina conditions. So I just want to wrap up by reminding you this is a good time not to let your guard down, to remind yourself of some of these products that we put out. This is a good time to refresh your memory and review your plans to make sure you understand, what are some of these common products that we would put out in a winter storm or in a winter weather event. So just a reminder, one of our newer products that came out last year was kind of just the transition into the cold weather criteria. So we have the cold weather advisory. This is when you have your air temperature or wind chill values that are less than 25 degrees Fahrenheit for Harris County southward. More inland would actually be 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember, this is based off of air temperature or wind chill value. And then there's actually the extreme side where we have the extreme cold warning, where your air temperature or wind chill values are 15 degrees Fahrenheit for Harris County and southward, or 10 degrees Fahrenheit further inland. And this is not a new change, but relatively new. So I want to make sure you are aware of that. Also, just a reminder of our winter storm warning criteria. So you can see on the right-hand side, there is kind of a defined line between what winter storm criteria is for most of the counties, but we do have a northern portion where it's slightly different. But for the Northwest counties, heavy snow of at least 2 inches are expected. Everywhere else, it's 1 inch or more of snow. We would issue a winter storm warning. We would have 1/8 of an inch or greater of ice accumulation due to freezing rain, and this is valid for all of Southeast Texas, or a 1/2 inch or greater of sleet. So these would be the 3 criteria for issuing a winter storm warning. We also have an ice storm warning, which would be for 1/4 of an inch of greater of ice accumulation. So in summary, for a winter weather outlook, La Nina conditions will bring overall warmer and drier than normal conditions to Southeast Texas this winter. That does not mean we can't have periods of cold winter weather, those potential isolated scenarios of all winter hazards that could involve, sleet, freezing rain, ice, or even snow. Or just extreme temperatures. So you need to be prepared for all possible winter weather hazards this season, even though the likelihood isn't as high. We will transition to INSO neutral by spring and have the possibility of El Nino by the summer of 2026. Overall, though, looking pretty good. If you have any questions about the winter weather outlook, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. My email and contact information is available to you should you have any questions, or you can reach out to us through our website. And with that, we will let you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.